Good evening. My name is Chris Terry. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Art and Design here at Utah State University, and tonight I have the very great pleasure of introducing our distinguished speaker, Hung Lu, who we are pleased to have as a guest artist in our current season of Communitas. Communitas is a part of the Kane College Visiting Artist and Scholars Series, and it's underwritten by the Marie Eccles Kane Foundation Russell family, also by the Tanner Charitable Trust, and other generous donors, which include differential tuition provided by the students of this college. And you'll remember just a moment ago that disembodied voice asked you to turn off your electronic devices. I'd like to remind you to do that. And students, as you're leaving this evening after the lecture, make sure that you swipe your card. Apparently there's a device to do that out in the lobby. So our guest tonight is Hung Lu. Born in China, Hung Lu has lived in the United States since 1994. She's been recognized with numerous awards, including 2 painting fellowships from the National Endowments for the Arts, as well as an international award for lifetime achievement in printmaking from the Southern Graphics Council. Lu's work has been exhibited extensively and is collected by museums such as the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, also in New York City, the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco, and the LA County Museum, among many others. Lu currently lives in Oakland, California. She's a professor emerita at Mills College, where she has taught since 1990. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Hung Lu.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jane, and also a lot of graduate students, some of you I met today, and really great to be back here. I was here probably 10 years ago to see the open sky. You know, it has been raining in the Bay Area. So great to see blue sky today. My talk title is I use called the summoning ghosts, and Chinese 招魂, from 2,000 years ago, Chinese poet Qu Yuan. Why I use title? I used for my retrospective years ago at the Oakland Museum of California. Probably after a while I will explain. Probably I don't need to explain my work. Will explain. I think to share my work, I think also I need to share the way I grew up, why I become who I am, you know, as artist. So start with 1966. China started kind of cultural revolution. It's the full name is the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, meaning anything not a proletarian, not a, communism, would be wiped out. So I was in high school. This is a picture of me. This is cheating. I didn't do the painting, but I have a friend in the college. Everywhere, great leaders' portrait. I was always doing, you know, artwork. I love it, so I posted. But it's really symbolic, like the way I grew up, completely under great leader, Chairman Mao's regime. And the kind of paintings that time you can see is like this. You know, Chairman Mao always, you know, they're taller, bigger than anybody. We use the name for a term for him. The red is the red sun. The red sun not enough. The red is the red sun. Our great leader, you know. And when the Cultural Revolution happened, 100,000 Red Guards, young people formed, called the Red Guards. We guarding the communism, we guarding our great leader with a little red book, which is Chairman Mao's quotation in front of Tiananmen, like a lot, million, could be million of them, get on street. And you can see the rally, and you can see bad guys, they call them called the capitalist roaders, really the leaders. Some of them actually party members, but criticized in public, humiliated, and physically also sometimes attacked like this, with a big cone head, and the people throw trash, ink on him. He had to stand on chair. A lot of people, 1,000 people surrounded here, shouting slogans. And the left-hand side is like to destroy anything not, just like feudal society. The temples, the statues are burned, smashed. And the right-hand side is a book burning. And in front of in Beijing, I remember the called the cultural minister building. There are big mountain full of books, any books from the old feudal society from the West, like I read like Victor Hugo's La Miserable, all those, any of those books, non-proletarian, all burned. That book mountain burned for days. And then 2 years into the revolution, schools all closed, factories, a lot of places all closed. Then where we're going to send to those Red Guards, young people, is such as, it's an unrest society. So we were sent out to the countryside. Some sent to the military, more like farm labor camp. So you can see from train station to the buses out. I was sent to the countryside for 4 years. This is one of the pictures from that time in the village, the broken bridge. And I always, since I was young, like to draw, to paint. And this is, I grabbed a paper I could find in the countryside. It was really, there's no weekend, there's no wage in countryside. Only each year, Chinese New Year, you have a few days off. That's pretty much. And you're so tired during the working in the field. Whenever you have chance break, you just lay down. So I have some sketch like this from like the late 60s. And just so happened, I knew like I posed in front of Chairman Mao's portrait. Those people, my friends, but they're older, in the college, they were sent to the military farm far away. One of them had an old camera, and probably older people know, those German box camera, 120, you have the roll film in. And I never learned how to use camera. Photography at that time was not even art medium in China. But I had this camera to keep for my friend. Then I said, you know what? I have a camera. I can take photographs. So I went to the photo store and learned how to load the film into this camera. So I just started. We didn't have money that time, so I bought limited, like a 36 exposure. You count it down, like, and so I just shot a bunch of, you say villagers. And after all those years, oh no, it's like over 50 some years, they still look pretty good. I showed some in my retrospective. And after 4 years of work in the field, I got back to Beijing Teachers College, learn art, but mainly art education to teach children art. And revolution still going on. And the paintings like this, that's the model paintings. Chairman Mao walking together with the peasants from the South, and everybody with a big smile following the great leader. And we also did a lot of this kind of propaganda, billboard. And on stage, there are only 8 performances, revolutionary performances, showing for 10 years. First on stage, then become a film, but the movie, but all. And when Nixon visited China, on his side, one side is his wife, the other is Chairman Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, because she was responsible for the revolutionary ballet and the Peking Opera. And So, but when we went to countryside, it's nothing like everybody smile in the field. It's a quite hard life. So I did whatever I could try to, to use my sketchbook to, grab chance and even, portraits like this, quick drawing or something like this in the countryside. Three classes you want to see: the poor peasants, the workers, and the soldiers. We're supposed to do, the subject matter, 3 categories. So this is the countryside. I did probably more than we went to factories, like this kind of factory. I cannot remember what they were doing, but just the factories. And then we went to military camp to get trained. And this is our dorm. That's our teacher there with semi-automatic rifles. That's what I did in the country, in the military camp. And military base, you can see the soldiers, young soldiers all came from countryside somewhere in China. There's a woman even. You can see where I was there in the group, in the military camp. And even though revolution is still going on, I was, I was really dying to be an artist because so many years working in the field, I want to do something to practice. So I started I get a tiny pen box, like cut my brushes very short. I did oil painting. And just whenever, at that time I remember 1 painting a day, no matter morning and evening, because the campus, the school campus was surrounded by, it's in suburb of Beijing, so it's all open field. And when I did this, I remember putting on the wall of a dormitory to dry oil painting. One of my roommates, I think 5 of us in one dorm with the bunker bed. One of my roommates was more like a party member and a leader. And her nickname is 政府, government. A woman's, nicknames for government, pretty severe. And she saw the painting. This is a Chinese public toilet, She said, how dare you do this, because revolution going on, you're supposed to do the workers, the peasants, the soldiers. You do a toilet, public bathroom. Where's your political stance? So it's really dangerous thing. So I started to hide. And whenever I did something, I'll hide under my bed. So this is like a bunch of, landscapes I did. Basically not human figures. I pretty much did 1 painting a day. If I had anything, saved everything, probably hundreds, but somehow my mom saved some. To my surprise, I have a 35 survived one. And just recently, San Francisco MoMA got, the whole set of landscape in their collection. This is my landscape. And after teaching art for years, and it's like from elementary school to middle school, through exam, I got into Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing. It was one of the most important art institute. And because my focus is within oil painting department, but my focus was mural, so I got a chance to visit at school. You can see very Western kind of training models like this, But we also got to visit the ancient Buddhist grotto or cave along the old Silk Road called Dunhuang Cave, dated from 4th century on. So I now electricity allowed because once there was fire, and now like electricity, so there's no light except that when you open the cave, whatever the opening, you get used to the dim light. We do everything on the ground. It's pretty much dirt ground. So I did a lot of work on rice paper like this. I didn't copy, just kind of borrow different things. I also tend not to do the most famous pieces. I put them together. The way is very interesting. Rice paper, you can paint on both sides. So a lot of those paintings, you can see, oh gosh, I washed use ink wash from the back. And this is like reincarnation, the water and like a soul just go up and down, a lot of prayers. The reason their face all blacks I didn't make up, because of after all the years, whenever you have a lead in the paint, it becomes oxidized, becomes black. It's almost, pure black face is pretty strange. You look at it, horseback. And the giant, I don't know if you can see the arm, on top. There's a big lips there and the legs. And I call them two lovers. It's all around rice paper. And it's so funny, just at that time, David Hockney visited China. And I didn't know until many years later in Chinese diary, my picture was there. I was a graduate student. Somehow he called me Mrs. Liu. I don't know why. But he said my work is unexpected. It's a cartoon on religions. That was 79, 80 already. So it's a little loosened up. And my graduation, if you say, thesis piece was based on at that time new excavation of a whole set. It's a tomb. There's from over 2,000 years ago from south of China, Hubei. But one of the full set is bronze bells. You can play music, on this whole full set, first time. So I was very excited by seeing this. Plus, I really didn't want to do a mural, like propaganda. I want to do something going back to pulling back time. So what I did was about a 50-some-foot long mural based on ancient music and dance. This is supposed to make some kind of whatever from the floor up. This board never made. It becomes later on is a dining hall. I can see the way I did it is called a leaf and tiejin in Chinese. It's an ancient way, traditional way used for temple or imperial palace. I don't know if you remember, if you went to China, those lines are like a relief. And also covered by gold. And this is the way I did it. And you can see the big bells have to be hit by big stick, by man, the women dancing around. And also the Chinese character, like a do, re, mi, so, la, without the semitone, is like a gong, shang, jiao, zhi, yu. That's Chinese music score. This is the three parts of that. And in 84, after, you won't believe how long I waited for my passport, 4 years. Chinese government didn't give me passport until I waited for almost 4 years. I was accepted by UC San Diego graduate school. But after four years, I got my passport. Just for this piece of paper, I waited for 4 years. And you have to get from the police station, in Beijing. And it just so happened in 91, that year, Venice Biennale in Venice opened in that time still Soviet Union pavilion. Robert Rauschenberg showed something. And first time I could ever visit Europe, of course, in Biennale, to see that, it's just amazing. And then I saw Rauschenberg there, and I said, this is like a historical moment for me personally. I said, I seldom ask anybody autograph, no matter how famous, but I said, I want his autograph, but I have nothing on me but my Chinese passport. So I handed him a Chinese. I said, Mr. Rauschenberg, I'm an artist from China. In order to go to Europe, I had to get a visa from every single country. As American, you don't need that. But every single country, Switzerland, we passed, and France, Italy, and probably went to Ireland, just every single country. I said, look at this, in order to come here. And he said, oh, this is serious, because it's passport. Then he said, okay, here's a visa to the art world. I said, okay. And I closed so fast, and so it gets print. That's my Chinese passport. Rauschenberg, that's defaced. It's like really illegal. You sign your passport, and then my husband was so nervous. Said, "Oh God, you can be deported, sent back to China." Probably. I said, "I'll just tell them that's Chinese police chief. That's his signature. Don't worry." So I traveled through Europe, no problem. And at UC San Diego, that's quite a pretty avant-garde school. I had no idea. Alan Capro was there, Eleanor Anthony, Manny Faber, quite a few very famous American older artists. So, and I took Alan Capro's happening class. And it was, it's like it never happened in China. You either do painting or drawing or sculpture. What is that happening? So I learned a lot by doing that. Even after graduate, we went to Holland, did something with Alan Capro. Now I think it's amazing. I was just locked out, as a Chinese artist, right into the really very, very advanced kind of conceptual world. And when I was at a graduate school, I had a chance. There's a building, third college, now it's called Communication Media Center. There are two staircases, and Nam June Paik did one temporary thing. So I did a mural on the other staircase, still there. They kept all these years, 30 years. And this is a Chinese, a big ram's head. In Chinese, ram, gold. The character means good luck, 吉祥, like yang, the sheep. And at the middle, because when you come from upstairs or downstairs, right away you say this. So it's like a shrine, like a big, altar there. And then along the wall, I got on scaffolding, did this mural during spring break. It's a Chinese, the left one, Chinese, like Chinese Adam and Eve, the first man and woman, half human, half serpent. And then the fish flying, the birds rather on the floor, different things. And also I copied Confucius, called a Da Tong. It's a kind of it's like an ideal society, the whole thing along the wall. So that's a sun god and the sun and the moon. And so I did my mural in U.S. And also I did an installation because still I was new, just almost fresh out of the boat from China. The revolution still pretty strong in the resonant. And so I did 1,000 Mao Zedong's cut profile, felt. The middle one is a good big head, green. And upon each head, I got a fortune cookie. I will tell you about the fortune cookie stories. And also I did 10 drawings on canvas of a more important historical moment, because he pretty much changed the history of China. One of which is when he was swimming in the Yangtze River, and I'm still in charge. Cultural Revolution happened, and with his wife, with Khrushchev from Soviet Union, of course with Nixon, But I didn't paint his face, so it's like erased my face. You don't need if it's God, you can recognize. You don't need a face for him. But one of this I needed to talk about, because this Red Guard, head of Red Guard, offering the Red Guard armband to great leader. This woman, her name is Song Bingbing. She was from my middle school. I went to a very famous middle school. It's boarding school in China in the 60s. You don't have a lot of boarding school, maybe none. It's a girls' middle school. And Mao Zedong's 2 daughters, Deng Xiaoping's 2 daughters, and whoever famous people have daughters are sent there. But we have to have high score in order to get in. Song Bingbing, this is a historical photograph. And she was from my school. She's 1 year older than me. Mao Zedong supported all the uprising, like the young people started to criticize or even physically tortured, or teachers tortured the so-called bad guys. And this woman was head of my school. On the right-hand side, the woman, the adult woman, was our principal and party secretary. She was party member. She was this is Mao Zedong was August 18, 1966. Very famous moment, but 13 days prior to that, the Red Guards of my school, which all girls, they physically tortured, like made the principal go up and down, and running through the buildings, throw trash over her, and did a lot of things. Finally, she collapsed and ended up in the hospital, died. And that's her. She left 4 children and husband. That's the revolution. She was the first death among in Beijing among all the schools. And the second death I know is, believe it or not, our teacher in number 101 middle school. So that's almost, almost half century later. That's Song Bingbing. That's her. She went back to school to apologize, and the principal's husband refused to accept it, and so interestingly, in 1966, I graduated from high school and never got a diploma, and then 2016. My classmates in Beijing said, "We're going to get our diploma. Like, do you want one?" Then I said, "Do I want one? I'm not applying for jobs. I don't need diploma." Then I thought, why not? 50 years ago, I graduated. And then they got me one. Guess what? The signature was that dead principal's signature. So I have this really strange thing about this, my ID or diploma. This one is 50 years after her death, 50 years after my graduation. Now I got a diploma from high school. I think it just says a lot about that. So come to US, of course, and I became resident alien. I did the project 88. I realized that time my green card is it's called The Resident Alien. Just so happened that the Alien movies, just Aliens movie, 1 or 2, just Sigourney Weaver, right? Just came out, one after the other. And English, my second language, I always want to look up dictionary, what that means, alien. Then it's like somebody from somewhere else there. And then visually, the movies, the aliens are all pretty nasty and ugly. So I said, oh, that's my green card. I'm a resident alien. So I made it into a big painting when I had a chance. You can see I changed my birthday, my name, and everything. And it's probably the most published piece everywhere. And this painting is in a big painting installation show in San Francisco. It's a building not used before. We put a wallboard, did a resident alien about Chinese, not just me, but Chinese immigrants in Chinatown, San Francisco area. One street, Sacramento Street in Chinatown, translated to Tang People Street. Tangrenjie means Tang People Street. Tang Dynasty is from 618, right, to 906 there, yeah. So the Chinese brought their heritage here, which, hope this is like a glorious, like a Chinese early Renaissance. But the reality, the right-hand side is Tang Dynasty beauty, really standard, a full moon face. And then the left-hand side is a Chinese prostitute crossing the street, so it's idealized, new home than the reality. This is an installation. Chinese railroad workers, big fortune cookies, and only through that installation. First of all, I came to U.S., went to a Chinese restaurant, they served fortune cookies. And everybody said, oh, you know what this is. I said, what is it? I never seen China. And then said, really? That's Chinese? And then realized it was actually invented, created by a Japanese American near Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. It's not Chinese invention. You cannot find in China. So I was fascinated by this. It's like fortune cookie, like a fake golden nugget. So that time I ordered, because Chinese name translation for San Francisco is not a phonetic, like Washington will be Washington, right? Los Angeles will be Losanji, but San Francisco is Jiujinshan, Old Gold Mountain. So I thought, go with Gold Mountain. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so like I make a fake Gold Mountain. So I ordered a 10,000 fortune cookie. I was so excited. In Chinese restaurant, you get one. Now I can make a little Gold Mountain. And also, 89, Tiananmen Square is a repression, the democracy movement. So after that, I was already here. I did some work, react to that. Like the left side is a Chinese porcelain cup in a French museum. And then the right-hand side is a Chinese woman photograph from 1900. So it's like a goddess of love with a woman with bound feet. Chinese of, the goddess of liberty is really crippled, woman with deformed feet like that. And this is a Chinese, doctor taking pose, like a body politics. That's the man, if you remember that photograph, he was standing in front of the tank. Never see his face, try to stop tanks going through on Changan Boulevard, But anyway, that's that. And a student sitting saying, no water, no food, in front of Zhongnanhai, where Mao Zedong and all the high-ranking Chinese officials lived, and the rows of chickens ready to be killed for food. Okay, And maybe since I did a green card, I did a lot of research into Chinese old photograph history, not just Chinese in the U.S., Chinese in China, and the photograph taken by foreigners. So I got, I saw a lot of old photograph from late 19th century and turn of 20th century, like this family. Women all have tiny bone feet, but they all look away. They cannot look directly, into people's eyes. But men are more aggressive. This is the whole family. Instead of just the painting, I have 6 holes. I insert, the boxes into the canvases, and the whole set of a teapot, and 2 upside down like the women. Yeah. This is also a box onto the canvases. This is also I adopted the photo template that time, like arched shape, round corner. And this is a 2 men about to be executed. The middle, the placard is supposed to be their crimes, but I wrote the Chinese 2 lines from ancient poem, 劝君更尽一杯酒，西出阳关无故人. Said, please have another cup of wine when you pass the Western Pass. When you pass the Yangguan is a pass, there won't be any old friends. So it's like a saying goodbye, saying off of friend. But also in olden days, when the criminals, so-called criminals, about to be executed, what they want a cup of wine. Said, I'll be back. In 20 years, I'll be back. So I feel like to offer wine, my offering to this. That's probably I can talk about why I called my work Summoning Ghosts, because in China, some regions in particular, if your family members, loved ones died, in few days, 3 days, 7 days, depends, you call them lost soul back home. You say, come home, this is your home, so they won't be lost in the darkness. And so I felt a lot of, the photograph I use historical, those people, you see, the anonymous, nobody ever, even knew they lived, they died. So I felt like my paintings, my painting surface is a memorial site to call their soul back, because I want to make them visible, even though you still don't know their names, you don't know their story, but the historic photographs that they existed, they were, what kind of life they have. Maybe, we related the human condition. So I want to call their soul back, to summon their soul, in my memorial act. And this is another box. This severed head of a boxer, a rebel's head, hanging from a pole. So I honored him, and with 2 birds from 12th century paintings, almost like a crucifixion, like cross. And in early 90s, I went to China, did research on old photograph. We burned so many books, so many family photo albums all burned. Then through friends, I went to a film studio. I found a bunch of photographs of young Chinese prostitute, like this. It's a really strange setting. And I asked my mom, said, have you seen anything like this? And no, So it's like for particular kind of clients, selling woman with the setting, the photo studio, like set up, like associated women, maybe with props, with accoutrement, imply they're more worldly, like Eiffel Tower, they could drive a car. That's a really strange thing to look at. So I developed a whole body of work based on, because photography was invented in 1839, and in the beginning, because the shutter, the exposure were very slow, so the sculpture is part of it, and sculpture and architecture, and then also influenced by a lot of Western portraits. So I purposely titled this like a Chinese prostitute, but called Olympia. I made a lacquer shelves with like wooden flowers, this case, and also even wall paneling on the top left. It's an old house from old house, so like a missing piece there. This is all after, to refer to Western, famous Western masterpiece. This is one woman both in men's and women's clothes. This is there in the landscape, they blend in with the strange rocks. And then there's some revolutionary self-portrait, you would want to see. This one right now showing at SMOMA in the Chinese contemporary art show, based on a tiny, tiny photograph when I was at the military base to be trained. And I remember every day we carry semi-automatic rifle, and finally we practice, finally we gave bullets. I remember I was a top shooter in the class. Now I don't remember anything about the gun somehow. And then when I first showed this photograph, my husband saw it at the graduate school, we met there. He said, "What are you doing there?" I said, "We were trained to fight American impressionism." He said, you find who? I said, wait a minute, in imperialism. And we learned so many isms. Then he said, well, that's not a bad thing to find impressionism. So I made, this is a really big shaped canvas. And the bayonet part, I did a point is like impressionism. I'm fighting impressionism there. And this is a shaped canvas, insert my Chinese passport portrait. It's a third eye and a gorilla girl. I'm looking at the bananas. I had some kind of relationship with the gorilla girls, actually. When in Texas first show in San Antonio, 3 gorilla girls showed up, gave me some bananas. So gorilla girls? And just last year at a conference, a gorilla girl from New York showed up. I never saw their faces, so I'm one of them, I guess. And my family from Northeast China, formerly called Manchuria, was occupied by Japan for 14 years during World War II. My mom's family from called Xiaohuangjingcun, Little Golden Village. So we went back to do, to show respect with this white, guy, and to my ancestors buried, my grandparents buried in the cornfield. Each one is like little mound. So we did several times. We cleaned their grave, and with relatives. So I did something based on my family history. Myself in the cornfield, and this is not a cornfield, but it's a shaped canvas, as if my mom carrying this mountain with ugly contemporary, some kind of pipe, something. My grandma, and she washed the family laundry of her life, never heard of washer dryer. So her hand's really big. This is all shaped canvases. This is a shaped canvas, missing piece. My father left us, and then my mom was forced to divorce him because he was with the Chiang Kai-shek Communitas side, not the communist side. He joined the wrong army to fight Japanese. And then when I was 6 months, they left us. He left us. And then I found him almost half century later in a labor camp. So that's another story. It's a long story. And they talk about the old gold mountain. That's the name for San Francisco. I had Chinese, caught a little bit gold rush because they were not allowed. And some Chinese railroad workers helped to build the Union Pacific West, the railroad. And the Golden Spike, this year is 150th anniversary. There's 3 sites, at least I know, Golden Spike in Utah, and one is Reno, Nevada Museum, Reno, and then Stanford. Same time, May 10th, it's 150th that moment, May 10th, 2 o'clock, 2:37, something. There's a particular time. The last golden spike was driven into this railroad. The reason Stanford doing that, because Leland Stanford, who's the founder of Stanford University, his money mainly from the railroad. So Stanford felt like they owe Chinese workers, railroad workers, something. So I had a chance, guess what? I ordered 200,000 fortune cookies that year. I could do another 10,000. You won't believe the truck came with a box of fortune cookies. And they're so happy with the biggest order of fortune cookies. So they throw in several bags of chocolate fortune cookies. I could not use, it's chocolate color. But that's when my husband sent us, we try to put up this installation, railroad tracks and ties. And then at the wall is shaped canvases. I used the historical photograph of Chinese shrimp junks. They used to be in Sacramento River and San Francisco Bay, a lot of Chinese fishermen as well. So this looks like a gold mountain, but also remind me of my ancestors in a graveyard in Manchuria. And this is one of the about 12-foot tall shrimp junk. And after the Chinese prostitute, different Chinese women in the olden days were not allowed to go to school, and their body had to cover up. I think a mandarin color has something to do with that. Cover your neck, everything. Long sleeve, cover your hands. But then, my mom's generation, the 30s, 40s, they started to go to school, get educated, liberate themselves. This is one of the paintings I used from an old magazine, 20s, 30s, or 40s. And this is shaped canvas, a woman looking into the mirror, probably to, find out who she was. And that's another one. And you can see they expose their arms, their legs, and also more open, and they even join the sports. And it is like a Isadora Duncan. It's just, but still have to test to balance. Yeah, that's kind of a. This is just in China, Peking Opera. It's a very famous, kind of form. And in the olden days, no women are allowed to be on stage. Only men play female character. This is one of the famous man, Li Shifang, who there's 12 steps, not 12 recover, 12-step recovery, 12-step makeup, make him into a female, beautiful female. This is 3 canvases. And then this is a revolutionary ballet. When Nixon was in China, he watched this ballet. You can see not Swan Lake, but ballerina with a hand grenade and rifle. And also, luckily, the last dynasty, the last phase of last dynasty photography was introduced to China. So I used the imperial court photographs of the last emperor Puyi and the famous Dowager Empress, Dowager Cixi, a woman considered dragon lady, and in power, and with it's really in a feudal society, patriarchal society, a woman in charge, but surrounded her all eunuchs. In China, eunuchs is terrible. They remove all the male part, and it's just a horrible thing. So I have cigar boxes for them. And this is still impressed Dowager Cixi. I can see, no matter how powerful she was, still a woman. She's nothing. So I put a bird cage onto her robe. Another 3 women, they call Fujin, wife of one king. I also put a bird cage there. And American photographer John Thompson went to China. He wrote a book, late 19th century, called Through China with a Camera. And he took the one chapter, it's a Chinese type. And then I decided to do a Chinese type, but profile based on his photograph. Instead of just the image of just the face, I start to add, like this older woman, a row of geese walking from a Bronze Age, walking through her head, and jade, earrings, and images of dragon from textile. You can see a lot of washes there. This is all pretty big, 80 by 80 faces, and some from traditional painting, scholar, birds, flowers. And over the years, I did quite a few children. Like when I was doing something in Baltimore, and there's a museum, I found immigrant children working in the cannery. So I offered 2 cans, but without label. So it's like it's not a Campbell soup. You don't know what it is, but like the children, their identity somehow lost. And Chinese sister and brother eating. I saw this a lot actually in China, but that's an older photograph because the girl has little bone feet. Street performers. That's my own son. When he was little, he crawl on the floor, draw all over, use chalk. And that's the children. Also, a lot of women at work, because one was me in the countryside. So I saw this old photo of a woman carrying crop, every step I made a lotus flower under her feet, and the little chicks from 12th century bird Buddha, little Buddhas all over, like both brushstroke, but also her prayer, my offering, everything. So women, also women at work. I can see, you can see that I throw a lot of birds, flowers from a traditional painting. I thought that the woman, when she is waving, she is working probably, just, and she needs a lot of companies, a lot of beautiful things should be offered to her. And this, you cannot see the barge or boat. This kind of job mainly done by men in China, but this is a mother and daughter tied and walking, doing back-breaking job. I like the part is like, if you say figurative or realism, but the part of when I was doing the bank and the rocks, it's pretty abstract. Also the gap, the reflection, everything, just really, to me, is a very important painting. It's almost autobiographical. And the 3 generations doing you can see more birds, flowers, all from a traditional painting. And when I was in countryside, either women or donkey do this kind of job. Donkey even had what do you call those, covered eye, blind, And women just go around to get that dam. Also, because I was born in the middle of beginning and the end of a Chinese Civil War, so and you would think after World War II there's no more war, but that's not true. So I'm really feel like I'm so connected to refugees because I was a baby in the refugee among so many people. So refugees is part of, the result of war. So this is, you can see I use a lot of traditional Chinese painting motifs, bird and Buddhist cave, the pattern and the landscape underneath, and even between the old mother and son, there's a Pompeii angel there. Mm-hmm. Red color in Chinese tradition is a celebratory color. It's for wedding, for big birthday, for all the celebration. But here also, I feel like to celebrate the lives there, but also maybe little also bloody. There's a crane and the lotus, all good fortune. Little Buddhas like a prayer. This is like a peasant selling 2 children in the basket. Another, I use I switch their shabby bowls to very precious, imperial quartz, those ceramics, that. Yeah. And the comfort women's, I never resolved the historical crime committed by Japanese military. They captured Korean, Chinese, some Southeast Asian women as a military prostitute. A lot died. This is after the war finished. The Korean women was kind of like part of what the Japanese soldiers left. So I don't know how much you heard about it. It's just the Japanese government never apologized to this. So the comfort women just pretty much dying. There's not a whole lot left. One just recently died. This is like their horrible life. And in China, the Korean. But anyway, that's a long story. I did that. After 9/11, that's a big change of history. I did this one. A Chinese traditional bride dressed up, ready to get married in old China. You never probably no chance to meet your future husband until the day you covered up, sent to the man's home. So that 12th century bird crashed into her head, like of something falling from the sky. So this is my, maybe more psychological thing about after 9/11, we as a people probably voluntarily waded into a new age. First, I hated to take off my shoes into the airport. That's a minor thing. There are a lot of things changed big time. So I did a bunch of paintings like this. A girl, as if she could hear some message from ancient birds. And the two men cutting down a tree, the woman playing instrument, a string instrument made of wood and string. And then Peng Lai is in Chinese folklore. It's a paradise in the middle of the water somewhere, if you can find it. It's not Hawaii, I guess, But anyway, I did a lot like people searching for paradise. A group of men rowing a boat, and superimposed with the traditional flowers and the bird. That fat bird, I love that fat bird very much. And also a man pulling a boat upstream, and the ferries going to called the Queen Mother of the West, the birthday party they're riding on. And then the real man never had their faces, but the ferries there. So different style painting, but different, kind of, it's in between time, this interaction there. And this one. Most of this kind of work without the faces. You don't see their faces, their back. Only this one, because the Cultural Revolution books are burned, but some survived when my generation share is a famous Roman Roland, Jean Christophe, based on Beethoven's story. But the end is about St. Christopher carrying baby Jesus across the river. And getting heavier, then he turned around and said, "Who are you?" And the baby said, "I'm the days to come," so carrying future. So this is my Chinese St. Christophe. And also I did quite a few paintings. One of Chinese in American, one of them very well known because she lived and died in Warren, Idaho. And there's a Chinese, 1/8 Chinese writer in San Francisco wrote a book on her story, 1,000 Pieces of Gold. Her name's Polly Bemis. So I use historical photograph. You can see I offered her Chinese traditional painting, the butterfly, flower, some other Chinese in Idaho. And this looks like a Holocaust survivor, and really Chinese slave labor after the World War II in Japan. Japan surrendered. They kept some Chinese slave laborers, hardly any food, do physical labor because towards the end, a lot of Japanese men, especially young men, died. Those Chinese captured there, and the place they kept Chinese called Huagang, Flower Ridge. What a beautiful name, with this horrible thing. So I put the name there and also added the famous national flowers, cherry blossom. I did a lot of beautiful cherry blossom color with a few big Chinese flowers from traditional Chinese painting. And another modern time, called Modern Time, actually. It's on the right-hand side, you can see I grew up with the four white men, Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin. And then I redid that 4 white men. It's all Van Gogh's characters. And I use a revolutionary alarm clock offer that because I have a proof that we grew up, even countryside, We have Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, Mao everywhere. Classroom, conference room, anywhere, public place. And in the war, we always talk about band of brothers. I have a band of sisters, famous Chinese historical, true story. 8 women fought the Japanese back to the river, then they walk into the river. This is, I think, I can play this for short. Can I do that? Oh yeah. That's working. Yeah, here. I think I saw something, yes. There's no sound, I guess. But there's supposed to have sound, I guess not. This is Walk the River. So I did, based on film still, I did this painting, some paintings. It's all about the band of sisters. Oh, I was born year of the rat. Every 12 years, Chinese zodiac recycles. So 2008 was, I turned 60, but also that's big year. China hosted the Olympics. And this middle image came from a photograph. I think there's cases of little rats grow up together with their tails tangled, and they could never be separate. So I thought it was a really scary image, but that's my zodiac animal. So I did called Red King. If you type Red King, you'll see it. So the Olympic rings. So we all tied it together, in a way, not inseparable. And I did every year. I did when I was born. The left side is my portrait. The right side is my drawing. Of course, I could not do as baby. I did that, But it's a baby picture, and this is the year. I just show you two. The left one is I came to U.S. the year with my drawing. That's the new form of that Where's Mao. Instead, 1,000 the Mao's head for profiles, 100 star, red star, with embroidery, almost like swimming trunk of the drawings there. That's just. 2008 also, my mural in Central Academy of Fine Art, the ancient music, the building was sold, the building was torn down, everything's gone. So I did I even didn't have a good picture of that mural. So I redid that, like a nightmarish, of that mural. And with 34, that's the whole thing. With my passport, photograph, green card, different things, like my own journey through this mural. That is a variation of that mural on paper. And 2008 also had big earthquake in Sichuan, China, Panda's hometown. So at the Buddha's cave, apsaras, just meaning those flying angels, they don't need wings, they just fly. So I use them to, honor, to, offer to the survivors of the earthquake, like this. This one is, I said black, is not, you cannot see it. Okay. This is all from the earthquake. This one, I just quickly show you the process I do a painting, a big painting. And this is a military drill. This is World War II. And they prepared for the war, so the drill, the cannon shot, everybody covered their ears. You can see I threw a lot of insects from traditional painting. Yesterday, I think, was a Chinese. Chinese has 24 seasons, you know that, right? Chinese calendar, 24 seasons. And the spring, the third one in spring called Jingzhe, meaning all the insects, everybody awakening. But also it's called the first spring thunder. The 12 hairpin, you know, in China in the olden days means it's a name for beautiful woman because it's long hair with pin. But here it's like 12 girls with a gas mask, you know. So it's you cannot tell who's who. It's a war turned people into kind of monster. This is based on my own photograph as country boys. That's what I talk about that show, Summoning Ghost, from at Oakland Museum. You can see with my graduate students, the opening. You're familiar with a lot of those paintings. And at the Mills College Museum, for my retrospective, we redid this Golden Gate, old Golden Mountain. The end of the show, everybody said, "No, we waited for the moment. Let's dismantle this Golden Mountain." I think there's sound. Everybody screaming, yelling. This is like a fun part of it. And then they buried me there. And that year, I also did a big mural. About a week, I did at the Senhasai Museum on the sculpting, about 70 foot long. I used a 12th century artist paintings of water. So there's a smooth water, raging water, because it's something based on my own story. My mom died, we buried her. She didn't want to be buried in the earth. She wanted to be in between China and US, so we spread her ashes in Kauai, right in the middle. So I feel like this, like a memorial piece, not only for my mom, maybe for a lot of lost, you know, souls from ancient to contemporary. And also that year, I did a whole show to honor my grandfather. He's a scholar into a study old religious mountain in Manchuria. That's him on the left. He even hired, he was a school teacher, didn't have money, but he even hired a photographer, did a lot of photograph, documented the important temple, statues, even trees, rocks. That's him. And after, you know, I retired from teaching, and then we have a road trip. I took so many pictures of, believe it or not, dandelions. I realized it reminds me of childhood. In China, we call them little parachutes because they fly. And I started to take dandelions from, I titled them after the place, like Deadwood, you know, Devil's Tower. And they're all different. Allentown, for example, this is like 80 by 80. It took me forever to do that. You know, I realized how complicated, you know, but I love them because this reminds me of childhood, but also like an old battleground. You feel like the dead Native Americans, some soldiers, their blood, you know, somehow nurtured those dandelions. The migratory seeds, they take a chance. You never know where you landed if you can grow the next generation. This is little bighorn. You know. Rushmore, yeah. And finally, I'm almost done, okay. Since 2015, I may be part of because I visited Alabama. That time my son was teaching Montgomery. And I went to Deep South. I actually went to Selma, walk on the, what's it called, what? What's the bridge name? Puttons. Yep, so I walk on the bridge. And maybe I feel like it's somehow I'm American. I'm American. You know, I'm from China, but American. So I feel like a part of American history also is my history. We adopt children, we can adopt ancestors well. And this famous, you know, if you say, oh, that's my grandmother, but how many of you know her name? And doesn't matter, her face already emblematic for the Great Depression, Dust Bowl. And she's Frances Thompson. And I visited, this is done by a photograph by Dorothea Lange, and a woman photographer carry her heavy equipment drove all over to take to the worst place to document and the condition of the migrant mother, children, and men, everybody. So this is a horrible situation in American history, Great Depression, and this is, and just so I'm lucked out her archives at Oakland Museum, you know, my hometown. So I went there on regular basis. I look into so many photographs. Her husband, Paul Taylor, so good. This is so nice. And when she passed away in 1965, the husband donated everything of hers to the museum. So it's like this some well-known photos, some nobody knows, some government project nobody heard about. So, and she even sometimes record what they said on her notebook. So I started to do works based on, especially, you know, maybe exclusively, Dorothea Lange's photograph, like this one. A family of 4 try to hitchhike to, like the grapes of wrath, you know, that at least the family had a car, but this family definitely out of luck, so they're waiting for somebody to pick them up. She followed, Dorothea Lange followed this family. I saw quite a few photographs of this family. And also I learned a lot of terms such as, you know, bindle stiff. And I just have some painting student visited me from Mills College. I said, anybody know what bindle stiff, what is it? And there was one young woman said, I know. From a cartoon, it's somebody with a stick, with a bag. I said, that time means hobo, if you look at it, a man, single man, carry all his belongings and looking for job from one place to the other. So I did a big painting. And the clouds I didn't make up. Today we have beautiful clouds right here. And Dorothea Lange took quite a few photographs of clouds. I love the clouds because in some way they're almost timeless. It could be from yesterday, but this is from like 70, 80 years ago. So I want this man, the sky is open for him. And it's my prayer for him. And paintings like this. I also learned the term sharecropper. You know, it's in the South. It's a lot of new words. It's not just words, but related to history, to a lot of stories. The girl ready to pick up cottons, dragging along. And the Japanese American was sent to an intern camp after Pearl Harbor. And this little girl, as if she was part of the luggage. And I titled Oak and Tents, that's the Oakland Museum location, and the curator told me that was way at that time in 1942 was a gathering spot to send the Japanese American away. So I titled the location. A group of children together. So I pay attention to that girl with little doll. She never turned her face on, but I just decided to give her a pair of red shoes, to pray for a better future. And they, a little girl working in the tobacco field. Temporary home. Also, I can use and think about tenderness. Children, they had no home, no food, but they still could take care of other little, creatures like this. So very moving, the compassion. This is a Boundary County, Idaho. People all left, and each family probably left a mailbox there. Did you realize Oklahoma license plates like a heart shape? That's also Oklahoma. So what's going on now? This is the most recent painting I'm doing, still doing this. And I also, not one painting a day, but I bought a bunch of small canvases. Pretty much a few days I do a portrait. This is about 2 weeks ago. This is just yesterday. I took a picture and finished, made a big mess there. But anyway, this is evidence since I was 5 years old. I did this drawing and my mom saved. I guess I always loved to be a witness of my time, or maybe even, carry some weight of the history into my work. Anyway, it's a full cycle. Going back, that's the end. Okay. I know it's a little long, I'm sorry. I just, I tried to cut down. Even last night, I deleted some images. I didn't want to go too long, but anybody had any questions? I cannot see. And I answered all your questions. If you had any, anybody want to ask anything? Okay, I guess not. You must be very hungry. I'm so sorry. It's just long. Oh, you have a question?
What do you think the drips in the style of your painting do for your artwork?
That's a very good question. He asked what the drapes mean in my painting. That's a great question. I was trained we call in China with a political label called socialist realism. Everything has to be painted, like with the very, very carefully done details, right? On one hand, I felt like I want to loosen up. I don't have to prove that I can do everything perfectly, done that, been there, done that. Another thing is a lot of my source of materials from photographs, old photographs. So some photographs even blurred because old. And in a way, I felt let it loosen up, let the paint run, almost like maybe the physical kind of parody to the forgotten history, the the kind of our story or history, or the decaying, the erosion of our memory. So it's nothing stable. And that way, I believe history is not just a noun. I think it's a verb. It's constantly changing. It's unstable. And a lot of my paintings, even after many years, because the rendering looks still, it's moving. It's still kind of a, like this circle even, I took when it's still wet, but it's unstabilized this. So it's not a socialist realism, more like a weeping realism. It's like, that I don't know if I answer your question. Okay. Thank you. Any other question? Yes, please.
Is there a reason why you selected prostitutes to depict, or is that the only images that you were able to get?
Yeah, why I use a prostitute? First of all, I think in any culture, prostitutes is the lowest really low. You think this is bad words, whore, swear. And in China, only poor families' daughters were sold, or whatever reason, to brothel. And also, when China had, now it's just little loosened up, one-child policy, a lot of girls even would be born just aborted, or after, because you only have one, you're allowed to have one child, we must have a boy, because boy can carry the family name. It's a boy, not a girl. So I think there are children of lesser God in some way. So I felt those women never had a chance. The things is, their photographs, of course they were forced to pose. Like today, sometimes I thought that the parrot is really funny. You see sometimes a very sexy woman selling the car commercial, right? So sexy, selling whatever car. But that time they use use other prop to sell women, sell sex, use that time considered the latest, invention, photography. And I didn't show, I had probably about over 100. Some, they even flying airplane. This is ridiculous. How many people today could fly airplane? But with this problems together, sell exotic goods, like a mail order catalog. So I feel they probably treated like dirt, and who knows their story. Maybe a lot died young. I felt like I, want to, again, to call their ghost spirit back. That's part of my summoning ghost thing. So I also, probably, they never had a chance for anything. So I feel like at museums, some collector's house, they occupied a stage. They returning the gaze. They dare to look at you. They have a place. In some way, maybe return a lot of people's dignity as a human being. I think that's why refugees, they have no home, no food, they're selling their children. But still, I want to, in a way, honor them. That's I think it's about humanity. Any other questions? Then thank you so much for staying here with me. Thanks.